Deep in the heart of Central Texas, it's the Best of the Outdoors podcast. Brought to you by Texas Fish and Game Magazine, the voice of the Texas outdoor nation. I'm your humble host, Dustin Warncke. So excited that you've taken the opportunity to download this show, stream it online, stream it on Facebook, stream it on YouTube, wherever you are listening. Thank you so much for doing so. It means the world to us that you are a listener and part of this show and part of the Texas outdoor nation. So what's up, guys? I'm so excited to be back in front of this microphone. I'm so excited to have the opportunity to visit with you guys again, and just really enjoy doing this show every 2 weeks, and it is just brings joy to me when I hear from some of you guys. I had a listener reach out the other day that basically said that he was liking my podcast with the subject of the exotics in the off season, and was looking for a good ranch and needed some advice on what ranch to go to for an axis and a hog hunt. And I love that stuff, man. Your comments are my oxygen, guys, and it really means the world to me that y'all reach out to me in social media and ask me those kind of questions. I'm always happy to spend as much time as I need to with you to help you, just embrace the outdoor lifestyle. So this is going to be an awesome show. We are going beyond Texas today, folks, and we're basically going to go to a place in the great beyond, Alaska. And I've never covered Alaska on this podcast before, but this is the time of the year that I really want to cover something that is a great destination, a trip of a lifetime, whatever you want to call it. Alaska, the last frontier, just fantastic fishing, fantastic hunting there. And I got introduced to this gentleman that I'm going to interview, Mr. James Stegall. Captain James Stegall, I should say, because Port Lions Lodge, because through a mutual friend of ours, he works with Ted Johnson, who is a fishing marketer and hunting lodge marketer, and he's a fantastic guy. I was just on his podcast. I mentioned that, I think, on the last show, Fish on Ted podcast, which is a great podcast for outfitters and guides, and he turned me on to this guy, and this is a fantastic interview. I really think you're going to like this so much. So we talk about fishing, hunting, all kinds of things around Alaska as a destination piece, as just someplace you might consider going as like I said, trip of a lifetime, or someplace you've never been before. The hunting and fishing in that heritage and that culture is just amazing. So before we get cranking on with our content today and our interview, I wanted to definitely mention our sponsor of this episode, and that is Silencer Shop. Is your transfer powered by Silencer Shop? Make sure you see the I Spy powered by icons in the top right corner of Form 4. Those icons in that location mean that you can enjoy error-free Form 4 processing, line-by-line form review by NFA experts, exclusive ATF-approved barcoding process, and the lowest error rate in the industry. You have access to the Powered by Silencer Shop network with Silencer Shop. That is over 300 Powered by Silencer Shop dealers nationwide. Quick and easy resubmissions with their SID kiosk. Purchases eligible for the single shot trust as well. And you qualify for a 90-day money-back guarantee if you work with Silencer Shop. They offer a 100% satisfaction guarantee, or you receive a full refund excluding your tax stamp. Demand powered by. Find your nearest dealer or shop the industry-leading inventory at silencershop.com. That's silencershop.com. Folks, if you've never taken the opportunity to shop for a silencer, they're legal here in Texas for you to use during hunting season. Fantastic value that Silencer Shop has. Fantastic selection that they have. I saw them at the NRA show last month, I believe it was. Yeah, it was last month. And they just had a cranking booth. I mean, their booth was incredible, and I put pictures of that in the last show notes, and I'll probably put those same pictures in this set of show notes too for those of you guys that didn't see them before. But just remember, powered by Silencer Shop. Listen, if you did not get it powered by, then you are missing out on the largest inventory in the industry, a 90-day money-back guarantee, and the most obvious error-free forms and fast ATF processing. I don't like to wait for stuff, guys. Y'all know that about me, and that's one thing that they make a very simple, or as simple as possibly can be, work of the ATF process and only owning silencers. So definitely check out silencershop.com. Fantastic sponsor of this show and fantastic silencer selection. So moving right along, here we go. Really wanted to do something different and kind of get outside of Texas for a little while, and we do that in this show. So here's my interview with Captain James Stegall of Port Lions Lodge. Joining me on the phone, Mr. James Stegall from Port Lions Lodge in Alaska. How you doing today, James?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
That's wonderful. I always say I'm better than I deserve. That's a Dave Ramsey quote that I stole many years ago. Um, but thank you so much for joining us on the show, and really appreciate the time you're taking to do this little interview with us. And give us a little background of yourself and how you got started with Port Lions Lodge, and some basics on Alaska, if you don't mind.
Yeah, certainly. I am a biomed by education training. I owned a business in Anchorage, Alaska, servicing and selling medical equipment all over the state of Alaska. And along the way, I bought a boat down in Seward, Alaska, Resurrection Bay. And after about 3 or 4 years, me and my sons started up a charter operation where I would work all week in my x-ray business. Friday afternoon, I would take off and drive 2.5 hours down to Seward, race down there, help them clean the daily catch from Friday, go out and fish with them Saturdays and Sundays, and then head back on Sunday night or Monday morning to the grind. I did that for a lot of years,
Wow, that's a
and
grueling schedule right there.
I did it for several years. So the summers were hard because it was, the crew fished 90 to 100 days every summer, and I fished every weekend.
Right,
I got to a point where through my website, I was booking about 4 or 5 other boats
right.
in the Seward Harbor. So I decided I was going to buy an additional boat that I would run on. I was going to do 4-day work weeks. Sorry. And then I was going to take 3-day weekends and run my own boat.
Sure.
I had a captain running my boat Monday through Friday, and to hire a good captain, you can't bump them on the weekends.
Right.
That's their job
That's
for
when
the
I make the
summer.
money,
So
right? Yeah.
yeah, so I was buying a second boat, and I was pretty set on the fact that I wanted an Armstrong catamaran because there were about 5 or 6 of them in the Seward Harbor that had showed up new over the last few years. I had gone out on a couple of them, extremely stable, awesome vessel. So I started searching, the Alaska charter operators and the websites that we have up there. And I found one in Port Lions, scheduled to go out and look at it. The Andreessens, who had built and started Port Lions Lodge, they were selling a boat, the Laura Beth, specifically an Armstrong Cat. I flew over to Kodiak Island, beautiful place. I got a taxi ride out to the dock. They met me there, picked me up. We ran across. It's a 30-minute ride from Anton Larson Bay dock over to Port Lions Harbor. And on the way across, there were whales everywhere spouting
Wow.
things. Yeah, sea otters in the water, eagles everywhere. It was just fascinating. And we got to the dock. I looked over the boat real well. They, due to flight schedules and all, it was going to be an in and out day. They had made a lunch for us, so I went over to the lodge. I had lunch. We were negotiating about the price of the boat, and I'm puzzled. I'm asking them things like, how many people can you take here at your lodge? And they said 12, up
Uh-huh.
to 12.
Uh-huh.
And I said, so you have 2 6-passenger boats that are about identical, and you've got a lodge that can take 12 people. So you're selling one of the boats. What's wrong with it? And
Right.
they looked at each other kind of puzzled, and they said, oh, we're selling everything. We're
Oh,
selling the
wow.
lodge and both boats, but they just didn't get a buyer in the time frame that they wanted. They had a couple deals where the buyers, due to financial situations, had to drop out.
Sure.
So they had decided that they were going to sell one of the boats and run a little bit smaller operation until they could sell the rest of it.
I see.
So I sat at the table and I told them that I had some thoughts, some thinking to do, and I would make them an offer on their boat. Went back home, thought about it for about 3 or 4 or 5 days, called them back and made an offer to buy the entire lodge and both of the
Wow.
boats, the whole operation. And when I did that, I sold my business, Advanced Diagnostics, my x-ray business in Anchorage, to my partners. I sold my shares in it. I sold my boat and my operation in Seward, which was Seward Adventure Charters. And I packed up everything that I wanted to keep and loaded it up with a U-Haul and got on the ferry down in Homer, Alaska. The ferry, well, it's really unique. It'll go from Homer to Port Lions, then to Kodiak. It'll sit there for the afternoon, and then in the evening, it'll come back to Port Lions and then go back to Homer.
Oh, wow.
I say that because that's a pretty cool way for us to go from Port Lions to Kodiak to buy supplies, and we can go from Port Lions to Homer to the mainland if we need to. So that's another option to get in and out of there. But anyway, I went to look at a boat, bought 2 boats and a lodge.
Wow, what a story. That's incredible.
Yep.
Goodness.
Yeah,
So,
you know, when you're there, that lodge is the Port Lions Lodge is literally, it's the closest building in the community, which is a small little Native Alaskan village on the north shores of Kodiak Island. We're in Kodiak Bay, right off of Marmot Bay, and 15, 20 minutes from us, we have Whale Pass, Whale Island, Raspberry Island, which is pretty well known, and a Fogneck are known, and a Fogneck Island are both right to our north. So we fish in Whale Pass, we fish in the Afognak Straits. You know, we fish and hunt all around that side of Afognak, Raspberry Island, and Kodiak and Whale Islands. So we have the most protected waters that I've ever been in, because if the wind's coming out of the west, we stay to the east of the islands. If the wind's coming out of the east, we go through Whale Pass and we'll fish on the west side. We can always be leeward of any weather. So yeah, you know, a uniqueness to that is when I fished in Seward, we would book about 100 days a year. We would motor out about 18 miles to the end of Resurrection Bay, and then we would cut across the Gulf of Alaska about 40 miles to fish on the outsides of Prince William Sound, Montague Island and Latouche and those islands. But that's a 40-mile run of open water. If you get any, you know, the winds out of the southwest, 20 miles an hour or something, southeast, 20 miles an hour, you're at 5, 6 footers in the Gulf of Alaska.
Wow.
So we would cancel maybe 10 days of the summer due to weather like that. And, you know, the people, you know, they're in Alaska, they've flown up to fish, or a lot of ours were just single day trips. So they're people that are there and they're touring Alaska and they want to do a day or two of fishing. So they show up at the dock and we give them the bad news about the weather and how bad it would be in the Gulf, and we'd cancel and they'd say, okay, well, we're still here for 2 more days. Can we go tomorrow or the next day?
Right.
And I'd be like, you know, I'm booked 100 days in a row, 6 passengers every day. So,
full boats,
you know, so it was just a bummer because people would not get to go, or they maybe hang around and try to find another boat. I would refund them.
Sure.
But that was one of the things that I wanted to do is I would run 2.5 to 3 hours a day to fish before we dropped a line in the water, typically, most days, and 2.5, 3 hours back. In Port Lions, we are fishing. We are legitimately, we can clear the breakwater out of our harbor, go just around the corner 2-3 minutes to Paragrebny and be trolling and catching king salmon right there.
Oh, goodness.
We can go another, and we can catch halibut in that area. A lot of our fishery is 20, 30 minutes from the lodge. When the silvers are running through, you know, throughout over at Raspberry Cape or whatever, when they're out in the Shelikoffs, that's about a 45-minute run to go out and just limit the boat crazy on silvers. But so our longest run that we fish, maybe an hour.
Okay.
The other uniqueness too is I do a lot of transport hunts for Sitka blacktail deer.
Yes.
From Seward, it would be that same run. We would hunt in Prince William Sound because that's kind of where the population of deer is closest to the Seward area.
Okay.
So it's a 3.5 hour run in the winter, October, November, crossing the Gulf of Alaska, hoping the weather will allow us to get out there and hunt and then back. Where I'm fishing out of my lodge, we can get on the boat. We have breakfast in the morning. We load up the boat. We go out. I'll drop people on the beach, and you know I'll drop 2 here, 2 a mile away or whatever. And I stay in the area. Everybody has handheld radios. They can be hunting at first light. We can leave the harbor right as the light's coming up, and they'll be in the, in the bush hunting by, 30 minutes out of the lodge.
That's amazing.
It's
And so,
amazing.
yeah, I just was going to check in with you about what kind of fish you can catch, and then because there's such a diverse population, like there is in parts of Texas, there's such a diverse
Hmm.
population of wildlife and fish there. What do y'all mainly target?
Okay, the species that everybody seems to want to fish is halibut.
Right.
That's our primary fish. King salmon are extremely popular, and we have them coming through our area pretty much year round. Um, we have a really good, we call them silvers. They're the coho salmon. We have a really good run for them. We stream fish for coho salmon, the silvers, and we fish them in the saltwater. We saltwater fish the kings, and then the sockeyes come through. We call them reds.
Uh
We
huh.
fish them. We fish them in two or three different streams that we have in. You can see them in the water. Same when you're fishing the silvers in the stream, you can see them, and you're actually sight casting an individual fish and hooking it and fighting it in gin clear water. It's pristine.
Wow.
It's when when I first started getting the chance to do it, it was like the really famous Russian River on the Kenai Peninsula. Although you weren't elbow to elbow fishing with 1,000 people, within a quarter-mile section or whatever
Right.
it
They're
is.
just
It's
trying to
unbelievable.
jockey for position on that water, right?
Yeah, we get into our little rivers, and we'll hike through an old growth spruce forest with moss hanging everywhere. It's about a mile in, and then we're fishing in gin clear water, and it just, when you're there, it looks like nobody's ever been there before. It is unbelievable,
it's
spectacular.
it's truly God's country, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, absolutely. There's nothing prettier than Kodiak Island to me. The other species, so we have we have five species of salmon. The three targeted ones are the kings, the silvers, and the reds.
Okay.
We also catch humpies or pinks, and we catch the chums occasionally. They're good if they're caught in salt water. They're just not the target that we're after.
Sure.
And then outside of salmon and halibut, we have a fantastic rockfish fishery where we call them black bass. They're not a bass. They're a pelagic rockfish. And then we have quillbacks. We have tiger stripe rockfish, which is an orange fish with like black zebra stripes on them.
How
And then we
cool.
have we have these yellow eye that can get up into, biggest I ever saw in Seward fishing there was in the 20, 22, 24 pound range.
Goodness.
Out in Kodiak, we're catching them in 30, 32 pounds. They're trophies. They are the most beautiful, beautiful fish. If you Google yellow eye rockfish and you look at that fish to me, when it's coming up, is more exciting to me as a captain than a 200-pound halibut, which is very exciting to me also, by the way.
Of course it is. Yeah, that's amazing. It's fascinating the way. And how long should somebody spend if they're planning a hunting or fishing trip of a lifetime to Alaska? How many days should they plan on doing that? I guess respective to hunting and fishing or both.
Right. Our trips, we typically plan, there's 6 nights with us and 5 days,
Oh,
all
okay.
guided
That's
fishing.
pretty ample. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, a lot of people will call me and they'll say, "Hey, can you do a 2 or 3 day trip?" And I'll tell them, "Sure, I can work it out in my schedule, but you're going to have to be flexible with when your dates are because I got to work it into the beginning or the end of the season because I'm pretty booked. People show up on Sunday. We do a briefing. We have a wonderful meal at the lodge. We take care of fishing licenses and stuff. We talk about their expectations and what they'd like to do, and then we eat. We have homemade desserts and everything. We
Mm.
sit around and have a cocktail or whatever. Monday morning breakfast, and we fish 5 days in a row. But people, after you fly to get up to Alaska, my feeling is spend 5 or 6 days there, and unwind a little bit.
Sure.
You're not going to see any traffic. We
Yeah.
rarely, we'll see two or three other boats a day, and usually they're
That's it.
seiners.
Wow.
Yeah, commercial boats coming through.
Sure.
We'll see the certain times of the year. We'll see the big crab boats passing through. They're going from Kodiak through Whale Pass, heading out to the Bering Sea or, wherever we're going.
Right.
We have seiners around all year long, which is a big purse net that they circle around a big school of salmon
Uh-huh.
and pull them in. And some days when the timing is right and we just happen to be running near one, and I can look and I can tell that they're just about ready to haul the load up on the deck, I'll pull up within about 20 yards of the boat and I'll start BSing with the crew. Everybody's got their camera just watching a ton of fish being dumped on the decks,
Wow.
watching those guys working. It's fabulous. We have we have whales, humpback whales, and occasional orcas. But the humpbacks are around us almost every single day. We'll be on anchor and they'll be passing by.
Cool. I
So
mean, that's
yeah,
amazing. Wow.
yeah, so I would say for people coming to Alaska, if it's a fishing excursion, I would give it 5 or 6 days if it's guided. The guides typically know their waters real
Sure.
well. They know where the fish are. They're doing it day after day after day. So they kind of know what the runs are doing and the migration is doing. And they're going to put you on fish daily. If you're coming up as a do-it-yourselfer, you're bringing your motorhome up and you're going to fish all the streams up and down the Kenai
Uh-huh.
and up around Palmer and all, I would say give that a month or two, because you kind of got to hit the runs right and the timing and all that. Self fishing in Alaska, especially if you're trying to get the kings and the rivers, it takes a lot of hours put in
Right.
before people start
Really
just really
catching them. Yeah.
figuring out. Yeah, it's just
Right.
to kind of figure the feel of it and the runs and where they're at and all. It can be really crowded that way. That was one of the reasons I left Seward, is I wanted people, when you drive from Anchorage to Seward on a Friday night or whatever, you're going to be bumper to bumper traffic doing 70 miles an hour. There's a moose on the side of the road. You want to pull off to take a picture, and people are honking and they're waving gestures at you because you slowed them down for a minute.
I
I
bet.
kept thinking to myself, man, I want to show people Alaska.
Right.
I don't want them to deal with that. We
Sure.
fish all day in Seward. We fillet their fish. They take their fish and, getting it packaged and all. Then they go to a restaurant and there'd be a 40-minute wait.
Wow.
Seward is a beautiful, wonderful place. It's a fantastic fishery. I love it. But to me, Alaska, if you're coming to Alaska, I don't think that I want to provide, I don't want to show crowds.
Right.
I don't want my people to feel rushed or
Sure.
pushed. And when you're out on a salmon fishery in Seward, like the Silvers are in at Pony Cove, you could walk across boats. It's unbelievable. I mean,
That thick,
it's
right?
fun.
Yeah.
It's fun, and I enjoyed the heck out of it because all the captains are on the radio. It's a competition who's going to get the boat limit
Right.
first, and we're all talking trash at each other and laughing and
I
joking,
bet.
and we make it fun, and it's a wonderful thing to do and see. But then sometimes I would think, these people are in traffic on the way to work every day.
Yeah.
I want to provide peace and quiet and calm and, watch the eagles swoop down and steal a fish out of the water, see the whales, see the otters playing around and stuff.
Nature at work. Yeah. No, I get that completely. And the Kodiak Islands are pretty remote, from what you're saying, as far as traffic and people and that kind of stuff, right? Because
Oh,
I've
absolutely.
seen this on
Yes.
shows like Deadliest Catch and that kind of stuff, because I've been a big fan of that kind of, the Alaskan, the Last Frontier and that kind of stuff, those kind of shows on Discovery and elsewhere. And I'm just kind of like, that must be really nice just to watch nature in action and just observe. I mean, there's just something to be
Yeah.
said about that.
Yeah, we leave the lodge at 7:30 in the morning, and we pack a full lunch on the boat. We bring drinks in our coolers and all. We've got waters and sodas, and if the guys want to bring a couple beers, that's totally fine. We don't come back till 5 in the afternoon, and you get out, you catch your halibut, then we move on and we'll troll for kings or silvers or
Sure.
whatever. Then we'll go hit a rockfish pile. So we'll have limits of salmon, halibut, rockfish, and lingcod too, by the way, is another species we fish for. And during the day, we're not having to run very far, so there's plenty of times when the whales are breaching or
Oh,
whatever.
wow.
We can kind of pull up close enough to get really good photography and just sit there and watch. We can pull up to a little island in the middle of Whale Pass and photograph sea otter colonies that are all together. It's just, we'll see deer on the beaches. If it's a really lucky day, we'll see bears incidentally on the beaches. And then
Grizzly
we have
bears, right? Grizzly
yeah,
bears? Yeah, wow.
these are Kodiak brown bears.
Kodiak
Yeah.
brown bears. Okay, okay, I
Yeah.
understand.
And then we also, one day a week, starting around mid-July on, there's a hatchery where thousands and thousands, I mean, the water is just teeming and busting with pinks and chums and stuff, that this hatchery is, they let the known escapement, they count the fish going up into this little tiny stream, and when it hits the number that it's the right amount, and if you get too many in those streams, they'll, when their carcasses start rotting out after they die, because salmon spawn and die,
Right.
the carcasses can actually pollute a lake where all of these little the little salmon fry are. So
Right.
the biologists watch it real close, and then they'll shut down that stream with a gate, and then they harvest all of these fish. They milk the eggs and the semen, and they mix. They grow salmon to replenish streams all around Alaska or Kodiak to keep them going. But when those fish are trapped and they can't get up that river anymore, we'll go one day a week usually, and we kind of plan it around the low tide. We'll go in there on the boats, and we can just stand on the bow, and we can photograph bears fishing. They're diving under the water, coming out with salmon in their mouth. And
That's
sometimes
cool.
there'll be 6, 8, 10 bears. There'll be a sow with a couple cubs in there some days. It's fabulous. It's one of the best parts. People love the fishing, and they talk about the bears that they got to see and all. It's really cool. And the way that day works out typically is we'll spend a couple hours of our day going in and looking at the bears, and then the outside of where that little bay is right across to one of our favorite reefs for all of the rockfish and
Sure.
halibut fishing. A lot of good bottom fishing out there.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So we still get a great day of fishing out of it. Plus we get bear viewing.
Oh yeah, that's great. I mean, you get to see nature in action, and you get to have a great day of fishing. And the cool thing I like about what you talk about as far as a guide experience, because I've talked about this a lot on this show, and then I talked about it on Ted's podcast, which I mentioned on the last show I was on. And I often said the last fishing trip my father-in-law took with one of the guys that I've been with many years, back when I first started fishing saltwater. He basically would take them out, at 7 o'clock, do a redfish limit of 5 redfish on the coast of Texas, and would be done by 9 o'clock, 9:30. And he'd clean their fish and send them on their way and go try to sell the next trip. And my father-in-law said, I'm not going back with him anymore, because we could have gone and caught a limit of something else. See, that's what you do, which is really good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're out there all day. I ask people what their goals are, what their what their dream is, what is it you want to see, and we do everything that we can to make that happen. If I could tell a story, it's a great one, and it's a funny one. I had a couple, Greg and Gloria, showed up on a Sunday night, and I only had the two of them, and they in our briefing on Sunday night, they said, okay, we only want to take home 50 pounds of fish. That's all. And I said, okay. I said, do you want to mix it up? A little bit of salmon, a little bit of rockfish, a little bit of halibut? And they said, yes. And I said, okay, I can work with that. I also had a camera, a lady that was doing my brochure, and her husband were coming in on Monday night. So then I was going to have 4 people on the boat, and Greg and Gloria were great, because I said, you are going to be all over my brochure. This is going to be awesome. So Sunday night, they only wanted 50 pounds of fish, which I've got a week to get 50 pounds of fillet. That's simple.
Yeah, pretty easy.
So I said, okay, every night when we fillet your fish, which we do, and we vacuum seal it, we cut it down into 1-pound packages, we vacuum seal, freeze it. I said, every night they weigh each species. You had 20 pounds of halibut fillets. You had 40 pounds of salmon fillets. You had whatever. And I said, so y'all keep an eye on that every day. And then once you get to where you've got enough of this or enough of that, we'll move on to another species, and we can catch and release. We can do whatever y'all want to do. This is your week. And then Sunday night, they looked at me real serious, and they said, okay, if we have a halibut come up to the side of the boat, that's more than, say, 80 pounds, will you cut it loose? And I said, of course I will. It's your fish. You tell me what to do.
Yep.
And he said, are you sure? Because a lot of captains want all those pictures. And I said,
Yep.
I will pull that thing right up next to the side of the boat. We'll take all the pictures we can, and then we'll cut the line right at the hook and let it go.
Right.
And they said, you promise me you'll do that? And I said, absolutely,
Sure.
guys. Come on, lighten up. So the first day we're fishing, we're in 30 foot of water. We're in a spot that I had never fished before. One of the lines that we had just dropped a line down, and then they had gone in to put on fishing gloves and stuff, and that rod went off, and it bent double to the water, basically. And they're in my cabin, so I grab the rod and I go to set the hook on it. It's running, and it comes out. I miss the fish. I'm like, wow, that was crazy. So I lower that rod again, and I move to lower a rod on the stern, and that same rod goes off again, and it just starts spooling line out. So Greg gets out there, and he starts fighting this halibut. And it ran 200 yards. He gets it back in. It ran 100 yards. He gets it back close. It runs, he would get it within 40 yards of the boat, and then it would spool the reel again. That happened like 5 times. He's breathing like he's going to drop. He's in his late 60s, and I'm behind him going, you need help, man? You need help? Because I'm thinking he's gasping for air, and it's scaring me. So I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, do you need help? Let me know if you need help. And he turns to me as he's fighting this fish, and he's like, when this fish gets to the boat, you kill it. You kill it. And I said, Greg, I bet this fish is going to go 200 pounds. I don't care. This fish is trying to kill me. You kill it.
That's hilarious.
So I look at his wife and I said, what do you want me to do? And she said, go ahead and harvest the fish. So we harpoon it with a buoy. I harpoon it, and my harpoon tip, I don't tie off to the boat because they can fight hard and pull it off.
Yeah.
So I harpoon the fish, I flip the buoy in the water, and it runs again. And he turns around and said some very polite words to me, jokingly. But anyway, to this day, I still see them at the Boise Sportsman Show every year, and they fish with me every other year. And he still talks about because on one of my big displays, I've got that fish hanging up, and me and him are shaking hands, and it's on my display. And every year he's like, I shouldn't have killed that fish. And I say, Greg, I asked you 10 times, and he goes, I know.
And then after I stuck a harpoon in it, it was too late. Yeah, but
yeah.
No, that's
crazy. On the halibut, typically when a halibut gets about 70, 80 pounds and up, they're all females, or they're the majority of your large halibut over, say, 80 pounds are all going to be females.
Okay.
The ones that are up in those 200-300 pound class, and I've harvested plenty of them, those are breeders, and they're a genetically big fish, and they're breeders.
Sure.
The taste of the fillets, once you're over like 150 pounds or something, the meat's a little bit coarser. They're still good. They're just not as good as, say, a 60 pounder or whatever. Right. So being a, conservationist of our halibut and everything, I tell people on Sunday nights now, I say, hey, these are the breeders. It's your fish. It's your adventure. It's your experience. If you're a trophy hunter and you want to land it, we are the best at it. Right. I love doing it, and I am the best. Of course, I'm saying that, but I also tell them, if you want to release it, it's very easy to do. We can take all the pictures that we can get in the water, and then we can release the fish. So I let that be the angler's decision on that. No pressure on them. But we release. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just saying, how big was this halibut when y'all got it in, the one in the store?
Oh, that one was 206 pounds.
Golly, yeah, so it was over 200 pounds. Amazing. Wow.
Oh, yeah. We caught a 454-pounder in Whale Pass, right outside of Whale Pass, which is 15 minutes from the lodge, with me and a really good friend of mine from Port Lions named Bill.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's amazing. I mean, so one of the things you touched on a minute ago or a few minutes ago was, asking the goal for the client. And I try to educate my listeners and people that read my articles and stuff about guides and outfitters to ask the guide good questions and really have a good, synergy there with the goals and the expectations and the limitations of. Isn't that wildly important, don't you think, as a guide?
You can't beat that. I will tell you that I love the guides in Alaska. I've got dozens and dozens of my closest friends are Alaska fishing guides. I've been around guides at the dock that are grouching and grumbling and barking and cussing
Sure.
and smoking. And I've been around the most sweetest, humble, nicest, best fishermen you'll ever meet in your life. And they're wonderful to be on the boat. So I always tell people, like I'll be at a sportsman show and I'm obviously always trying to sell Port Lions Lodge
Right.
and my crew and my staff and me. And I'll get people that, oh man, I just can't go that week, or my group wants to go to Sitka, or they want to go to Juneau, or they want to go to Homer, or whatever. And I always tell them, research your guide.
Sure.
Ask for people that have fished with them. Look at their websites, look at their blogs, look and see if they've got any written comments, and see if you can search out and find people that have fished with them. TripAdvisor is huge, because if a client puts something on TripAdvisor, it's there.
Yeah, it's
It
not coming
stays
off.
there.
Yeah, it's like Yelp.
If the captain doesn't agree with what was said, you can rebuke. You can say, well, this happened and this happened, and the weather was horrible, and the seas were extremely rough, and somebody on the boat was sick all day. You can come back and say, I'm really sorry they had a poor experience, but there are reasons, or maybe there aren't reasons, or whatever. But when you look at a TripAdvisor and you see article after article after article after article where somebody's getting 5-star reviews and they're saying the food was impeccable,
Sure.
unbelievable, there was more food than people could eat, they're filleting fish right behind the lodge, right by the beach, they're throwing scraps out there, pieces of skin and stuff, and eagles are swooping down and
Oh,
taking it, and we're
wow.
videoing that. We'll have 30 eagles standing on our beach at times right behind the lodge.
Bald eagles, really?
Bald
Wow.
eagles.
I
Oh,
mean, the
absolutely. They're
American
all over.
hero, bald eagle. Yeah, 30 of them. Wow, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
and they I think they set their clock to, they know when we have a little causeway, a little bridge that goes across our little cove that we're in. There's a bridge that goes across it, and when we come in the afternoon, there'll be eagles lined up all along that little walkway
Just
waiting.
waiting for y'all
Because
to throw the
yeah, they
scraps
know the
out.
smorgasbord is coming.
So
Yeah.
nothing goes
So
to waste
so
in Alaska, obviously, right?
No, not at all. We'll throw like the spines, the
Sure, sure. I know what you
carcasses,
mean. The
the head, or
carcasses, yeah.
whatever, and they'll
Right.
swoop down and get it. But the key is you can pretty much do a little bit of research, and then get on the phone with the guides and talk to them, and you can kind of find out, do I want to spend 8 hours a day, 5 days in a row, or 2 days in a row, or even one day with my wife and my children on that boat with that guy?
Right.
And because that's a huge part of it. I tell people at the lodge, I say, you know what, whether you like it or not, you don't have a choice. You're going to go out on my boat and you're going to have fun.
Right.
That's
Absolutely.
mandatory. We don't
That's
allow
right.
nothing else. You're going to have fun, and we're going to make sure it happens. We put on music. We ask them if they have an iPod or music on their iPhones. We have Bluetooth to our stereo. We put on music. We
Oh, cool.
fish. We joke. I tell people every day, hey, when I'm running out, if there's something on the beach, or you see a whale, or you see something and you want me to divert and go over to it so you can photograph, it's your day. You just tell me what you want to do. I
Wow.
tell them we're going to have a blast on the boat. We're going to see all kinds of wildlife. And in the middle of all that, we're going to fill this boat with fish.
Right. Yeah, and it's the total outdoor experience. I talk a lot about at this show, James, about the outdoor lifestyle. And this is a kind of cusp of the outdoor lifestyle, because it's basically going all in to experiencing the whole part of what Alaska has to offer in your lodge situation, right? Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's what I
absolutely. We've
figured.
got we've got it all. The other thing is I run one of my catamarans, I have a guy named Marvin Nelson that runs my other catamaran, and I have his cousin Abner Nelson who runs his own boat, and also he's a fill-in captain for me. Those two were born and raised on a fog neck island,
Oh, really?
and the
They're in Alaska.
uniqueness, yeah, the uniqueness to a fog neck island is in 1964 on Good Friday there was an earthquake that wiped out a big, huge section of Anchorage, Seward, Valdez, all the way along coastal Alaska, and a tsunami hit Marvin and Abner's village when they were, Abner, they were probably both 6, 7, 8 year olds. I think
Right.
Marvin was maybe 5 actually.
Mm.
They lived through that. They experienced. They can tell stories about the entire bay draining, and the villagers knew to go up to high ground because the water would
Was
come back
coming.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, they tell stories about how the ground in the village looked like waves rolling by. But the cool thing about these guys is they are the humblest, sweetest human beings, and they're out on the boat every day, and they're telling stories about Kodiak and about their ancestors and about their village and about this old archaeological village that was found right across the bay from where their old village was. They are a wealth of knowledge and
Wow.
information. So they're out on the boat telling stories, and I just at the dinner table all night long. I have people just amazed at all the things that they see and hear while they're out there with us.
Well, and it's one of those things like it's the heritage of the sport. It's not just that we hunt fish. I mean, a lot of the people in that village, I'm sure, are subsistence hunters and fishermen, correct?
Absolutely,
I mean, that's a
absolutely.
very common thing in Alaska is subsistence fishing and hunting, and just basically eating to live, And I mean, the thing that we have as people live in Texas and beyond is something that we go hunting and fishing for fun, but I mean, it's something to watch a whole the Yupik people and the whole Alaskan natives that experience it from a different angle of this is our survival, and this is how we live off the
Hmm.
land. I think that's really cool, dude.
Right. Yeah, my village is probably. I mean, it's originally all Alutiiq, and now there's I don't know. We made 25% non-native in the village
Okay.
there. There's about 140 people there. The majority of the jobs are commercial fishing or they work for the city or whatever. But when they're not working, they are berry picking and
Yes.
putting up berries. They're catching salmon and they're smoking it and they're canning it for the winter time. They're hunting their deer, they're hunting elk. They we have so much going on in our village that if you live there and you're an outdoorsman, there's very little meat, game, or anything that you would ever need to purchase. I
Right.
don't think I have bought any fish from a market or a store probably since the 90s.
Wow, and the fish and wildlife are so amply supplied there. They're more prevalent to go out and catch or kill. Where you don't have to worry about going to the store. Is that right? Am I saying that right?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. And you know what you're getting? You're getting nature's fish
Yes. The
and
way it is
nature's.
intended. Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting our venison, our Sitka blacktail deer. There's no hormones, there's no
Yeah.
steroids, there's no fattening them up at the slaughterhouse or anything. When I pull a steak or a package of hamburger out of my freezer, I know that I'm feeding something to my kids that's just basically natural meat.
Sure, that's healthy, right? That's
Oh
not
yeah,
hormone, and that's the whole reason a lot of us hunt and fish is just so we have that connection to the nature, but also we have that connection to understanding where all this came from. That they're,
right.
and that's the thing that I'd say is so important with the outdoor lifestyle is just understanding that and teaching the kids about that, which I know you're really big about too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I get a lot of questions that very frequently people will ask me. Well, I mean, it's probably just an all guy deal at your lodge, right? And I said, oh my gosh, no. I get groups of guys that are buddies that
Sure,
go somewhere every
together,
year. They
right?
come to me every year. Yeah, they go together. But I get a lot of families. I get a lot of like grandma and grandpa and two of their kids and their wives and their grandkids, and they're all coming to the lodge for like You call it a family reunion, whatever. They're
Sure.
coming to fish and hang out with us. Yeah.
No, that's cool because the generational part of it. One of the guys that I've interviewed that Ted also works with that you and I know out of Striper Express, Bill Carey in Texoma, Texas, Lake Texoma, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about, well, he'll put little notes on his calendar that says 2 or 3 or 4, and that'll mean the generations that are fishing that day. And how many people have fished in that generation and been going fishing with him. And that's really, I say this a lot on the show, it's really the legacy that you leave behind there with the tradition like that. It's that rich, Don't you agree?
Yes, sir. I totally agree, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Even in our village there, we have a cross on a Fogneck Island. They have a camp there in the summer called Dig a Fogneck. And what they do is they take the local kids and they'll go over and spend a week or 10 days at this location. And there's people there that are teaching them, how to use a seine, how to use a long line, to catch halibut.
Sure.
It's like a trot line for us.
Right.
They teach them, they'll have a deer and they'll teach them how to gut it and process it. They teach them to respect the fish and game and the land. They teach them how to put up berries and make jams and jellies. They teach them safety, what you can eat, what not to eat, and all. So they keep the culture and the subsistence lifestyle going. They keep it rejuvenated. And when I get kids up at the lodge that come up, the teenagers, we all have a smartphone and everybody's on them and all, but you'll notice during the daytime, they'll have their earplugs in and they're playing some game on their iPhone early in the day, but pretty quick, man, their face is pressed to the window while we're running, or they're out on the deck taking pictures or fishing, and pretty soon they're like, yeah, this is a whole different world we're in. This is something that's fabulous.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, it's great to have that, just that break in, technology, just to have the experience of the outdoors. I mean, I think that's really what I take from that, because it's just so vitally important for our future of this sport, and it's certainly a rich tradition in Alaska. I'm not so worried about that area, but other areas where it's declining because the kids have so many other distractions to go to. You know that as well as I do.
Yes.
And just having that heritage, and then and I know that I've watched enough Alaskan shows to know that the fish and game department, I'm not sure what they call it there, but what they do there is very much about, if you waste, wanton waste and that kind of stuff is very badly looked upon. I mean, just the way that the game laws are set that way for game and fish is just so, it's to preserve it for the future, because the tradition's so rich, and also the game and fish is so ample. Is that right?
That very much is. Yeah, there's jokes in Alaska, and they're totally jokes, but I've heard many people say, you'd be better off shooting your mother-in-law than poaching a moose or something in Alaska. I mean, they will come down on you hard if you get caught. Yeah, you don't want to get caught with 6 salmon on a 5 salmon day, or 3 halibut. Or we never do that. We help control that. I make jokes. We'll catch rockfish, and it's like a fast and furious crappie bite or something. When we get in them, sometimes they're right at the surface, and I'll tell people, can everybody count to 5? You can count 5. You can keep 5 each. Can you all count to 5?
Right.
And they look at me funny, like, of course. And I'm like, okay, now there's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Y'all can handle 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Right? And they say, yeah. And I'm like, okay, you're all at 0 right now. When you get to 5, let me know. We'll be catching them. They're coming up. Some of them are small. I'll release them. Some of them go in the boat. And I'll look at people. It's been a frenzy. I'm running back and forth on both sides of the boat, bringing these fish in. And I'll look at somebody. I'm like, how many is that? And they'll go, 3? Is it 4? Was that 3?
They lost
and I'm
count.
like, dude, you said you could count to 5. Come on.
We asked you this earlier for a reason, right?
I have so much fun with that, because I know exactly how many they brought in, but I mess with them a little bit. Like, how many is that? Are you sure?
You lose count when the fishing's that hot, man, right? I mean,
it's amazing. I mean, we'll get on a good school of black rockfish sometimes, and I'll have maybe 5 people fishing, and that's 25 fish, and they'll be in the boat in 15 minutes or less. It's unbelievable.
I love that about your guide service, that you guys will hit multiple species and make a full day out of a trip, because that really makes it economical too if you're really looking to bring fish home. And I know you can always go buy it cheaper and everything like that, but just to have that harvest that you can take home with you. And I love the fact that about Alaska that you can take your meat and your fish home. That's fantastic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean we'll take them and look at waterfalls, and
Oh yeah.
we're going to spend a day on the water. The only thing that would ever make us come in early would be if if they just say, hey, we've caught all the fish we want and we're
Right.
tired and we want to go get into the sauna, the banya,
Oh cool.
which is it's a wood fired sauna. I mean we're there for them, but we rarely come in early. We're usually out there to the last minute, putting fish in the boat and looking at wildlife.
Right. So what's the weather there this time of year? I'm just curious because this is obviously way north, and is it a mild summer or is it a cold winter? I know it's really cold and icy and everything like that, and there's snow all over the place during the winter time. But how is it during this time of year in the summer?
Okay, so Kodiak is probably a little bit more like Seattle.
Okay.
We're coastal. We're out in the Gulf. We have more rain than snow in the wintertime. We'll get snow and it'll hold, and it's really great for our deer hunting in
Sure.
November or whatever.
Yeah.
But our average temperatures are probably in the 20s, 25s, which
Okay.
in Texas that's frigid cold. In Kodiak and Alaska, don't ask me why, but it's not as uncomfortable.
Okay.
And our days on the water, we have a lot of sunny days. We have a lot of, 60, 70 degree, which is perfect. I mean, it's t-shirt weather.
Sure.
We can have some rainy days and all. And like I tell people, just layer your clothing. It's very important if you go to Alaska to fish or hike or whatever. Pack layers. I'll wear like an Under Armour, an undergarment, and then I'll wear something over that and something over, and then I
Sure.
have a raincoat. And if it's a windy, cool, wet day, then I'll put on the raincoat over that. If it's a hot, sunny day, I'll strip down to the very bottom,
Layer.
t-shirt or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
Yeah, so just prepare for that. But it's where we are, we don't get the fetch on the seas. That was the biggest problem in Seward. It wasn't really that the weather was horrible. It would just be that, if it's blowing 20 knots southeast for 4, 5, 6 days in a row with that long, hundreds of miles of open ocean,
Yes.
it just picks up. Where we are, we're kind of in a little bowl that's
Right.
surrounded. It's like a horseshoe-shaped bay that's huge on the north side of Kodiak, and then on the west side of that, we've got a Fogneck and Whale and Raspberry Island and all that. So these mountains are, 2,000 feet, things like that. So they're blocking the wind to where we're fishing in pretty calm water
Okay.
most of the time. So yeah, we don't have a lot of days that are just snarly nasty. I think in the last 10 years since I moved from Seward to Kodiak, I've probably had we haven't canceled a day of fishing ever. We've had a couple days where it was really rainy or whatever, and we went out and got a limit of halibut on a Friday on their last day, and then we came in early because they just said, boy, we've caught everything we need to catch. Let's
Sure.
go dry out a little bit.
Right.
And our boats are fully, we have fully enclosed cabins. We have private bathrooms. You go in, close the door. There's an actual toilet that looks like a toilet. There's, there's no bucket. There's none of that.
Yeah.
The wives always want to know that.
Oh sure.
We
That's
have
important.
we have 30-foot Armstrong catamarans, dual hull vessels. They handle the chop real well. They handle the waters real well. They're very stable. They're fast. They're economical to run, which is good for me. But they're so comfortable, and they're just fishing machines. They're incredible. I think they attract the fish to them.
No, that's great. Well, we're about at the end of our time together. Would you please give us your website and then how people can contact you, maybe a phone number if you don't mind?
Oh, absolutely. The website, it's Port Lions Lodge. The website is, www. It's Port, P-O-R-T, Lions, Lions, lodge.com. And my phone number is 907-830-0188. That's a cell phone.
Yes.
And then the lodge number is 907-454-2264. Call me anytime.
All right, fantastic. I'll put both of those numbers in the show notes so people can contact you that way and possibly look at booking a trip. I mean, this is fantastic. So,
awesome. Thank you.
This is great. I really appreciate you joining us and sharing some of your experience. I mean, I love to have guides on the show because you guys give so much insight of what to look for in a guide, what to, the kind of experience that you can have. And I mean, you've done a fantastic job of that for sure. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
And there he goes, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. James Stegall, Captain James Stegall from the Port Lions Lodge in Alaska. And fantastic interview. Love this guy. It was a very easy guy to interview, obviously, as you heard there. I will put his phone numbers that he gave in the show notes, as well as the website. You can check that out if you want to book a trip of a lifetime to Alaska. Really, the rates to do something like that are not that outrageous. I was looking at his website before I recorded these bumpers, and pretty reasonable for something that's going to be a 5 or 6 day adventure. You're not looking at breaking the bank, really. It's just one of those things where you can definitely make sure on a trip like this to bring a tip. Tip your guides often, and budget for those kind of things with travel and everything like that. But I mean, once you get there, I mean, it's not really expensive for as much hunting and fishing that you would get for doing something like that. So anyway, I wanted to do a destination show today, and I really thought it would be interesting to bring you something from the great beyond, and really appreciate you guys taking the opportunity to listen and watch and read our stuff. So you can check me out at dustinsprojects.com. That is my website that has my hub of all the Dustin's Project stuff in the outdoor lifestyle that I do, articles and stuff like that. Please stay tuned to fishgame.com for all of our different things that we are rocking and rolling over there. I just finished work on a program for a ice replacement sponsor that is going to run live, I believe, in July, beginning part of July. So stay tuned for that. Fishgame.com. Sign up for our newsletters. We have the Tactical Tuesday, or Tactical and Practical Tuesday, Wildlife Wednesday, and the Thursday Texas State of the Outdoor Nation newsletter, and that is free. You get kind of a mini magazine delivered to your email box every day, Tuesday through Thursday of the week, and we have different content and new and fresh content every single week on that blog and on that newsletter, and that all relates back to our blog at fishgame.com, so definitely check that out. Thank you guys so much for watching, reading, and listening. Have an awesome day in the outdoors. We'll see you next time.